All right, guys. So we're actually going to be taking a look at the code that is shared with us through the example of the coral reef cleanup. So when you're opening that up, first off, to start the assignment itself, once you open up VRVex, make sure that you watch the tutorial. You just go into tutorials down to the bottom, and we've already dealt kind of strictly with one, and we really haven't dealt with two a whole lot, but the or at least the style of coding, right? The style of programming. The only thing that's additional in level 2 that we haven't looked at is the wait until block. But we're going to incorporate that into level 3. So we have some loops and other things that are in here. Just make sure that you watch this video before actually starting this. It's going to give you a few nice little tips. All right, so once you're done with the tutorial, you'll go back and you'll open an example. So go to File, Open Examples, and right over here you'll see, or somewhere on your screen, Coral Reef Cleanup Level 3. This is the one that we're focusing on. We want to use the site and the distance and everything else that's that the robot has available, all of these different sensing abilities. So that's what we're going to be focusing on here. Make sure that you open up this Coral Reef Level 3. Once you do, this is the code that you get. And it kind of breaks it down for you. They give you some little notes in gray as to what exactly it's doing. So it says use the forever block to continually check for the blue boundary to avoid damaging the coral reef. Obviously, when you look at the coral reef or the playground itself, you'll notice that there is a barrier. And if you go anywhere outside of this barrier, then your robot will have a chance of running into some coral, and it's damaging the coral, and then it's going to stop your robot from actually running. So let's hide this temporarily. All right, so we have our forever block right here, and then there's some additional stuff that they give us inside, right? So we're attaching our forever block. Now, it's telling us that we need to drive forward to collect the trash until the blue boundary is detected. And the way that you're actually going to set this up is by using, let me move this stuff out of the way. This is a different block. You're going to be using this style of code. So basically the way this is reading is, hey, continue to drive forward until something happens, right? The eyeball that is facing down, the detector that is facing down, until it detects the color blue, which is supposedly the color of the rock that surrounds the kind of arena here. So as soon as the robot runs into blue, it should do something else, and right, that's basically what we need to tell it to do, right? So we're telling it, hey, drive forward until you detect that barrier. That's all that is saying there. Once that until detects the blue, then you need it to do something else, right? So we're going to add something else in after that wait until. So in this case, now we have this block, this set of blocks. It says driving in reverse and turning to avoid driving into the coral reef. So we're basically saying, hey, when you drive forward, wait until you detect blue. Then, as soon as you do, we want you to drive in reverse and then turn right a certain number of degrees. And this one is just saying, hey, pick a random number between 90 degrees and 180 degrees and turn at any of those degrees in between. And the robot gets to choose. All right, so if we add that all in there, that is telling our robot, hey, drive forward until you detect blue. Once you do, drive in reverse for 100 millimeters, then turn right. So there are a few additional blocks I would like you to add into this. So first off, I would like you to fit in an if then else statement. We already have a wait until, but you're also probably going to need an additional one in there that has the front eye. right, is going to be near an object. And then we have our distance found an object. So the way that we want to set this up, we may need another wait until for that guy. We will see. So the way that we want to break this up, if we kind of just remove this stuff, we want to start a little bit from scratch. Let's get rid of that. Okay. We won't completely get rid of all this yet, because I think we can actually use this idea. So we're going to add in our if, then, else. So we have to think of what we want our robot to do, right? If our robot comes to a point to where either it can detect a piece of garbage or it can detect that blue barrier. So we can say, hey, if you happen to find an object, right? Distance found an object. You can almost kind of figure out multiple combinations, right? We can say, hey, if your front eye is near an object, then do something else. If you detect an object at a distance, then we want it to go after it, right? So we would do something like drive forward. All right. But we would also say, well, drive forward until, right, we detect that down eye detects blue. So we might need to pull that out. So down eye detects, or it's going to be front eye. We'll change that to down eye. The eyeball that's underneath the robot detects blue. All right. So we would say, hey, if you see an object, drive forward and then continue driving forward until you detect blue. Right. Then we would kind of do the same thing here. Right. We're having it drive forward until it detects blue, but we don't want it to go over the blue, so we want it to probably reverse a little bit. So we can add this in. We will reverse and then turn right. All right. If it doesn't detect an object, we want it to move around. All right. We want it to look around. So in order to do that, it's as simple as just telling it to turn right. All right. But we need to make sure that, hey, turn right until you see something else. All right. So we are going to say, all right, well, turn right until you see an object, right? The distance found an object. We can use another one of those. If the distance finds an object, so at a distance, if you find an object, drive forward. Keep driving forward. You're going to go through that object and pick it up. But keep driving forward until you detect blue, until you detect the edge of the arena. Once you detect the edge of the arena, drive in reverse, then turn right at a random number of degrees. All right. If you don't detect an object, then continue to turn right until you find an object. Okay, so this seems to be a possibility here. So let's go ahead and test it out. We'll find out what happens, right? So we'll hit play. He obviously seen an object, so he's going to drive forward. Backs up, turns right because he hit the end. He's going to rotate until he finds a piece of trash. And he continues on his way. Now, obviously, there are a few little tweaks here that you can add in to, first off, allow your robot to go faster. In addition to that, he's missing a lot, right? So there are some additional things that you could add in as well. So rather than him wasting time and driving the whole way until he hits blue, you could think about it as, hey, once you pick up a piece of garbage, tell him to stop and rotate to look for a new piece of garbage. So he's going from piece of garbage to piece of garbage to piece of garbage, rather than picking up one piece of garbage and then hitting the boundary, right? So there are a few little advantages to adding in a few other details, right? This is not going to give you everything that you need, especially if you want those bonus points of collecting 50 kilograms of trash. We can see that the battery power here is all the way down to 25%. We're still only just above 25 kilograms, so we're only halfway there. So that's kind of the basics behind the wait until, right? So you basically put the code in beforehand. So we would say drive forward until it detects something or until something happens. Keep in mind that we could also have this set up differently, right? We don't need this one here. We can actually put in whatever else you can think of. So if your robot has a piece of trash right in front of it, right, you could think of a way to write a code to get it to do something. If it doesn't have a piece of trash in front of it, it's going to do whatever is in the else area. So just think about that a little bit. There are different pieces of code that you can play around with, but these are kind of your required bits. All right. Again, trying to add this guy in as well. So you could use another wait until, right? Wait until the front eye is near an object and then do something else. So once it's near the object, you could tell it to stop and rotate and look for a new piece of trash, whatever you guys can think of. So this is hopefully this kind of helps you out and gives you a few little additional tips to completing the Coral Reef project. All right. Last thing, again, just make sure that you rename your code before you're completed, before you send it to me, and make sure you save it and send me the .vr blocks code. All right. If you have any more questions, feel free to email me or message me on Google Classroom. And have a great day.